Measuring a roof can be complicated. It really depends on the complexity of the roof system that you're looking at. If there's lots of different facets and levels, things like eyebrows and dormers and bump outs, it can be pretty complex. But in a basic level, you break it down into squares and triangles and rectangles, and you measure length and height, or width and length, and you use your basic calculations of width times height, or 1/2 base times height if it's a triangle. So simple roofs, not too bad. You could do it with a basic tape measure or a wheel. You roll the wheel and it measures out as you go. But then you'll want a ladder and a tape measure, because you'll want to measure up the hip or the ridge line to get to the top portion or the peak. Pretty much would just draw out your shapes and keep track of them all, and a good tape measure and a ladder. You could do most roofs. You have some roof systems that even have like a witch's peak, to me, so everything comes up to a point at the end, but it goes, the roof goes around, and so that can be difficult. And it really is, how do you break this section into a square, a rectangle, or a triangle? You try to break it down into basic shapes, but then you're using basic geometry in a lot of ways to get to your square foot measurement. And so the more facets the roof has, the more places you have to go around and get your measurements. And the odder the shape, the harder it can be the more difficult it can be to make a triangle out of it or make a square out of it. But that's really where the complexity comes in, is just all the different facets that can be up there. The worst part is having to go back and get more, but there's lots of measurements that are important. So if you're just looking at the squares and the shingles, which is why I recommend hiring a professional to do it, there's a lot more to your roof system than just those shingles. And so you really need to know the length of the hips and the ridges, the length of the valleys, the length of the eaves, sidewalls and head walls, because all of those different areas require a different product in addition to the shingles. And so you need to know how much of those products to have, and where to apply them, and when to apply them, and where you get those products, and what manufacturers made them is also important.